Hi there, I'm Mystic, and welcome to the Mystic Crafting Podcast. Today, I don't have much to talk about besides the fact that I went to a craft warehouse sale and bought some stuff and show you what I'm working on and what I finished. I know that this is my first video of 2023, and a lot of other crafters actually show off what they made in 2022 and what their plans are and stuff. I have no plans. I kind of just go about things as I want. I think my biggest plan for 2023 is trying to get through my stash of yarn that I've had for years and finish some of my whips that I have shown you in the past. I really want to finish off some of the blankets and everything, but we'll see how far I get. I don't like to kind of keep myself in a bubble or a box because I know I'll see a pattern that I really want to work on, and I will try and make that happen. But I do want to actually try and finish some of my whips, but I know that I am very slow when it comes to crocheting or knitting, and so I know that'll take a while, which will also destroy my fun and make me very sad sometimes because I do love collecting yarn. As for what I made in 2022, in all honesty, half the things I have forgotten, or I have already shown you what I have worked on in 2022. And so there are some stuff from 2022 that are coming into 2023. So I don't know if there's really going to be anything new I make in 2023. I hope so, but who knows? There was one thing that I wanted to talk about in the last episode that I completely forgot about. So in the last episode, I think I told you that I was making a Allie's sweater, which if you're new here, this is the Allie sweater that I'm working on. It is my first bit of color work. I think I'm showing you a sleeve, so hold on. So I think this is the back of it. But this was my first time ever doing color work for knitting. I have arguably done color work in crochet, but that kind of color work is that I just, every other row, I transition to a new color. So it is kind of color work, but also not really color work. I've never done like a graphic crochet pattern before where it's like, you can make a little heart or a little design and stuff like that. I don't believe I've done that before. It is something I do want to try. I'm just not 100% confident how I'm going to be when it comes to switching over the color and making it look really nice on either side. I know with knitting, you pretty much have one where one side looks really nice and the other side not so much. So making crochet like graphic stuff is something that I do want to try eventually. Maybe this year, who knows? But anyway, so this is my Allie sweater. Pattern is from s.knits. The yarn is from Knitting Lizard Fibers, and it is so soft. I love it oh so much. But I have made it to the body, but I will maybe go more into it later in the episode. I'm not 100% sure because this is really it so far. But anyways, so first time doing color work, I didn't know how to hold the yarn. And I looked up, like, all right, how do you hold two different colors of yarn? How do you make this go, like, nicely? So a lot of it was, like, for one of them, you hold both of the colors on one finger. And you kind of just, like, transition your needles, whichever color that you were going to use, based off that. So I tried that. It didn't really work because, like, how I hold my yarn is, like, very far down on my finger. I've noticed a lot of other people on, like, Instagram and, like, watching their reels, their yarn is, like, up here on their finger. I don't know how they do it, but mine always ends up down here, and that's where it's comfortable for me. I don't feel comfortable with it up here. So I had looked into different videos, and it's either, the yarn is all on one finger, and like separated, or you have them in two different hands. And there's actually this nifty tool to hold your yarn. So you can kind of see it. It's not really focusing very well. And to be fair, my camera doesn't focus very well. But so like you can put the yarn through these different loops. And so if you have 2 colors, 3 colors, however many colors, you can just put each separate color on those loops and kind of keep track of it that way. So I tried using this so much. It didn't work very well because the yarn just felt too loose to me. It didn't feel tight enough. So I kept trying different ways, and I realized that having the yarn in 2 different hands just was easier for me. So I had my main color in one hand and I had my contrasting color in the other hand. And so essentially I did a mix of, I think it's continental and English knitting. I can't remember what else they're called, but the way that I look at it is that, so continental, you have the yarn in your right hand, left hand. I know my lefts and my rights, somewhat. So for knitting, for continental, your yarn is in your left hand. For English, your yarn is in your right hand. So I've knit both ways. In all honesty, when I first started learning how to knit, I actually knit English style, so yarn in my right hand, because that's what seemed to make sense to me. And watching like other people knit, I was like, oh, okay, so it has to be in your right hand and have it work that way. But it just didn't feel natural to me. But it was the way that made sense to me when watching videos and learning how to knit. And then I was talking to my friend and I was asking her, how does she knit? Like, what hand does she have yarn in? And she said, oh, I have my yarn in my left hand. It just feels more natural to me. I'm like, okay, that's fair. And then I looked into like the difference between the two. And I think some people were saying that like continental was like faster. I'm honestly not sure, but I decided let me switch over my yarn to my left hand and see how that feels. And being a crocheter, my hand already is in my left hand because I'm right-handed. So my hook is in my right hand and my yarn is in my left hand. And it just felt more natural to me to knit continental. And I actually enjoy it a lot more than knitting with the yarn in my right hand. And so when doing color work, I was like, this just feels natural to me to have, the colors separated. Because what I was also doing was I would drop one of the colors and just have the color that I was knitting with in my left hand. And then when I had switch colors, just pull up the next one. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. It just feels a lot slower. So I knit color work with yarn in both hands because it just makes most sense. So that's the one thing I wanted to update you on. So for some, this does work. For me, not so much. I do recommend it though, to at least try. It wasn't too expensive. I got this from Joann's. You can definitely buy some off of Etsy or maybe some local yarn shops, but I didn't see any from mine or any that I would like online, and I just needed something kind of quick to go and grab. And sadly, my local yarn store is like about a 40-minute drive away from me, while Joann's only a 10-minute drive away. So it's just easier for me to see if Joann's had this and go and purchase it to see if it would work or not for me. Also, they do have different sizes, which I didn't realize. So I don't know where I put the others, but I think there's like a green one and a blue one. And the colors actually change based off of the size of your yarn. So this is like fairly small, so like for a lightweight fingering yarn. And then I think the blue is for like a worsted weight yarn. And then the green one might be for like even bigger yarn. I'm not 100% sure. But I was using, I think, a bigger size than my yarn needed to be. I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. Let me switch out these colors. I didn't know that there was a difference until I like looked more closely or I looked at the packaging. Um, what other life updates are there? So I graduated undergrad as an electrical engineer, and I'm planning to go to grad school to further my education and hopefully change my career path slash update my career path of going to a better career than being what I currently am, which is a technician. Because I do enjoy technician work, but I kind of would like to update my career. So I'm also studying for the GRE, which I don't test well at all. But I will suffer testing in order to try and get into grad school and see where I can go from there. So that's one thing that I've been doing since the last time I talked to y'all. And I think that was a decision I made within the last month. And I have a tendency for when I make a decision, I kind of just sit on it, think about it, and then forget about it. And it just disappears. So I'm trying really hard to stay on top of this and actually make it happen. And by make it happen, I mean for me to actually apply to the colleges and see if any of them will accept me. So we'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed. It won't be for a while. Like, I might not be applying for another 6 months to a year, but definitely for year of 2024, I'm hoping to be going to a grad school. I don't know where yet, but I'm hoping that it will be a thing. So I did want to make this episode sooner, but there was a craft warehouse sale going on this weekend, which is January 21st and 22nd. So a local knitter slash I think crocheter, a local crafter who I follow on Instagram, she actually posted about this in her stories, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's near me because you're near me. Let me check this out. And I was like, I'm down to go. So the warehouse sale was from, I think it was the Crafter Box. They're kind of an online subscription craft thing where you can like learn different crafts. So they have woodworking, leatherwork, bookbinding, knitting, crocheting, weaving, I think painting, candle making. They have a whole bunch of different crafts that like you could try out for a subscription, I believe, or like for a class. And like they'll send you a box with all of the materials. This is not an ad, by the way. I had to learn about this because I didn't know what they were or who they were. And I was just curious about what they would have at this warehouse sale, as well to see if, if there would be anything I would be interested in or like interested in trying, or my friend who's nearby who does also a lot of different hobbies, but like right now she's into sewing. So I was curious if there would be anything that she would want me to pick up for her, because I'm going to be seeing her soon. And so I just decided that, I wanted to go, ask my husband if he wanted to come with me, just, have a day in San Diego. And he said, sure. So we both went down. And it was a very small building, which I wasn't expecting much at all, in all honesty. But they had a whole bunch of different crafts. They had a whole wall of yarn, roving yarn, where you could do, like, you could get a spinning spindle to start spinning yarn. They had needle felting. They had, like, cake decoration kits. They had, like, leather bag making kits where you could, like, make your own, like, pouch or even your own, like, tote bag. They did have a weaving kit, but it was like $300. So I was like, not gonna buy that. I would love to. One day I do want to try out weaving, but that might be when I have a house and have like a bigger room than this where I can like sort all my stuff and actually have a place for it. What else did they have there? Oh, they had broom making. They had a thing to make candles, but I'm not really into candles at all because me and candles, we don't get along very well. So I didn't try out the candle making thing. But they did have some, I think, you can make like wooden spoons as well. So they had a whole bunch of different stuff there, which was like really nice and arguably fairly cheap. Probably compared to, what normally costs. So I did pick up some yarn because I can't resist yarn. And I didn't really have much in my bag anyways, because there wasn't a whole lot where I was just like, oh yeah, I'd like to try that. I was just kind of meh, don't really want to try it, mainly because knowing me, if I try it and I get really interested in it, I'm not going to want to stop, and I don't need any more hobbies right now, or more stuff for hobbies that I might not continue on in this very small room. So I'll show you what I picked up because it wasn't a lot. So my husband didn't, I don't want to say he let me. He was just like, okay, fine, you can have some yarn, because honestly, he was there to control me from buying many, many yarn. So I did buy some yarn that will hopefully turn into like not a scarf, a sweater. And so I'm hoping I got enough of the yarn. Let me show you what I got. So this is the yarn that I picked up. It's like this nice kind of purple blue. And so I don't remember what color it was because I didn't really pay attention to, one, the name of the yarn or the color of the yarn at all. I was just like, yarn. So it's this really pretty blue. It's very, very nice. And I think it's like a bulky weight. And it's very soft. I think it's 100% wool. So when I got home, I did look up the name of the yarn because my husband somewhat remembered what the yarn name was. Because both of us didn't fully pay attention to it because he was kind of more curious about the roving yarn, and I was very tempted to buy a spinning spindle to kind of play around with roving yarn, but at the same time I also knew I was like, I'm not 100% sure I want to get into like spinning yarn and doing all that, because the roving yarn kind of makes me feel a certain type of way that I don't really like. So it's just like, well, we'll stay away from that. And the roving yarn was like $5 a piece. So I was like, that's a bit too much for me to want to kind of get into it. But this yarn was only $3 a piece. So you bet that I put 10 of these in my bag, and it filled up the whole bag. So there was no stopping me. But so I looked up the yarn, and it's called Lucia wool yarn. It is 109 yards or 100 meters per ball. It's 100% wool, and the recommended needle size to use for it is 5 to 7 millimeters. I don't know what that is in US. And the recommended crochet hook size is 7 to 8 millimeters. And they did describe this as a chunkier Aran weight, so I'm guessing it's like kind of bulky. So I'm going to probably go and look up a pattern for like bulky weight yarn, or like probably worsted to bulky weight yarn, to make to make a sweater with it. And I'm fairly certain, I'm hoping that I bought enough yarn, because I have approximately 1,000 yards. Approximately 1,000 yards of yarn, which I think is more than enough, but you never know. I also got this felting kit because it was the only other thing that I was interested in, and I have been interested in learning how to needle felt. But I was also like, I don't have any projects in mind. I don't know what to do with felting. Like, I'm not sure how any of this works. So I saw a kit and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. I'll buy it. And, try it out, see how it works. And it works out because, so if you bought your ticket online, you got a kind of gift bag when you came in. So in my gift bag, I have roving yarn. I have two because I bought both my husband's ticket and my ticket online, mainly because it was just easier. So we got a gift bag. So let me show you what's in this gift bag. So we've got a paintbrush. I don't know what to do with this because I don't paint, but I'll find a use for it for maybe one of my other crafts. We've got paint. I think they're called like block paint. Yeah, so they're speedball fabric and paper, block printing ink. So we've got it in green. Are you gonna focus at all? Hello? Okay. One day I'll get a better camera that actually focuses. We've got it in green. There is a red one. And then there's also a yellow one too. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this because I don't do like block prints or like, I forget what it's called, but it's like you can kind of scrape it and make kind of like a stamp. So I think that's what this would be used for. But again, I don't do any of that. So there's that. Got more stitch markers. So that'll be useful. I can use that. We got some yarn. It's very, very thin yarn. So I'm not 100% sure what I can make with this. But I could find a project. I could find something. And it came with a crochet hook as well. So I'm actually kind of interested in using this. There is no size on it, so I have no clue what size it would be. And then we have the roving yarn. I don't know what to do with this besides probably felt something, but I only have one color because the other bag has the same color. And so I can make a lemon. I could felt a lemon, I guess. But yeah, so when I saw this, because they didn't give us these bags until we were checking out, and I looked into the bag and I was just like, I should have got that spinning spindle. I don't remember how much the spinning spindle was, but I think it was like less than $10. But I was like, I should have gotten that spinning spindle just for this and just tested out how to spin yarn. I was very tempted to go back today to just go do that. But I'm clearly not going to. I think it's gonna close soon. So like clearly I didn't go do that. But I think they did say that they'll like put everything that wasn't sold online when like this weekend is done. So maybe I'll go check on there to see what they got and if they have a spinning spindle for sale online. Because like why not? Because I think with the roving yarn, I would have to go and find somebody specifically that sells roving yarn in order to make it, like, to make anything. Because I don't think that's something that I could find even in local yarn shops. I'd have to maybe check another local yarn shop because I know the one that I go to doesn't have any roving yarn. They just have, like, normal skeins of yarn. Maybe I'll have to see if the other local yarn shops might have any. I have been meaning to check out one other yarn shop near me, but I haven't made any time to go down to go see what they're about at all. But one day I might, because I do know that they have lessons or like classes for weaving, and you actually get like your own weaving kits that you get to keep. So that might be something that I decide to check out, but I have to make sure the classes are on a weekend because, again, they're all the way down in San Diego, so it's like a 40-minute drive for me to get to. So it's a little bit of a drive, so a weekend works best for me because I can't do it after work. Another craft that I have picked up or kind of started to get more into a little bit and like think about a little bit more is polymer clay. So this is kind of just like a polymer clay starting kit. It was just like a package with a whole bunch of different, I think it's Sculpey clay. And so I had just picked that up from like Joann's just so I could like kind of test it out, see if I would enjoy it, see if I would like it. Because I did want to kind of try my hand at polymer clay and making like stitch markers. Um, as maybe a side gig when I if and when I do go to grad school. But I thought it would be kind of interesting. I'm not an artist, so part of me is just like, Mystic, that doesn't make sense for you to try. But I was just like, let me try my hand at it. Let me see if it's something that, I could do that could turn out really nicely or not. Um, so I do want to try it. I do want to give it a go of trying to make stitch markers and seeing how it turns out. And so I also ordered a couple of other things. I have like this case that has like a bunch of little, like, I think they're like hole punchers, so it's like you can punch a hole into your polymer clay and make either a hole or like make it so that they're like small little balls that you can mess around with. I guess I have to figure out how to open it because it's not opening. Oh, there's tape on it. Okay, well, I'm not gonna fight with it then. Yeah, there's like big sizes, and then you've got like the smaller sizes or so around here somewhere and whatnot. So it's like they don't all have to be like the same size and whatever. And then I also bought like these little baller things, so like they're different sized, not mallets, but like little tools to make like little indents. So like I've seen some YouTubers who use it to make kind of like a indent so that you can put like polymer clay for like an eye or like a nose kind of thing. So there's just like different ones that I bought, different sizes, paint brushes, paint like brushes kind of things. So I figured I'd try my hand at it and whatnot, see how that turns out, see if that's something that will be entertaining for me or not. I'm not expecting it to, I'm not expecting to blow up like Hello Lavender, who is a knitter slash crocheter, I think. I think she mainly does knitting, but she makes beautiful stitch markers that I'm hoping to one day be able to purchase. But I don't have any high hopes anytime soon right now. But I figure it could be like, just a little side thing if, my stuff turns out nice or not. I think that's pretty much it. I think that is all of the interesting things I've done within the last month, which arguably has not been a lot. So, for what I have finished within the last month, I have finished one thing. And that is my friend's Victorian shawl. So, I don't know if you can really see the pattern too well, but it is fairly big. Hold on, I have to like back up. So this is it. Oh no, this way. I go this way. So like it is fairly big. It's like, it's like my arm span. Whatnot. And I did slightly go off pattern because it was supposed to stop. Hold on. It was supposed to stop like about right here or so. Like you can't really see it, but it's the shell shape of the pattern, and it was supposed to stop after that. But if I stopped there, I was like, oh, this looks fine on me. And my friend is slightly bigger than me. And so I was afraid that was going to be too small for her. So I wanted to repeat the solid and shell portion of the pattern again to add like an extra like 5 inches just to make sure that it would cover her and that it wouldn't end up too small for her, because I figured bigger is better, just be safer than sorry. But I, 'cause, 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 ' I don't know if I did the math incorrectly or if it's just not meant to be repeated again. But I tried to add on the shells and the math just wasn't mathing. It just wasn't working out. And so I tried this on and it seemed fairly big on me. And so I was just like, okay, if I block this, it'll probably end up like maybe an inch or two bigger. So I figure I will just leave it at this and hope that it's not too big, but that it does fit her just right and isn't too small at all. So that was my hope for it. So I've still got to block that, and I'm going to do that after this video, and have that done and be able to ship that off to her. And so I did show you the progress on my Ally sweater. So I finished the color work. I have separated the sleeves and I'm onto the body. So just 11 inches of stocking stitch and just waiting for that body to just fully mobilize. I feel like that's the wrong word, but we're going to go with it. And so I decided also that I want to kind of keep two projects going, because if not, I'm going to get really bored of my one project, and then it's going to get put into the graveyard of whips, and I don't want it to go into the graveyard of whips. I want to have a sweater. Like, that's my one objective right now, is I want to knit myself a sweater. So I'm going to finish that sweater, no matter what. But I also need to distract myself from it sometimes with something else. So, I have noticed that if I'm working on something that I have in mind for somebody else, I can keep working on a whip for myself. So, I have this bucket. You have probably seen this bucket before in my episode of what whips do I have going on that I have not worked on in a while. I don't remember what the episode was called, but that's essentially what it was. So I'm not sure if I explained it in that episode, but the reason why this is in a big bucket is because I had to frog the whole project when I initially made it. And I had already connected, like, let's say 6 different skeins together. So I was not about to put all of that, or like spin all of that yarn. Or wind it. I was not going to rewind all of that yarn. That would have been way too big of a cake. So instead, I just decided it's just all going to come apart and go into this bucket, because this is a blanket. So this is my honeycomb blanket that I had in mind for a friend. She doesn't know that I have made it with her in mind. When I finish it, I'm going to ask her if she would like it or not. And if she does not like it, I will probably just put it up for sale on my Etsy or Ko-fi or wherever I decide to have a shop. Because right now my Etsy is on vacation and my Ko-fi shop does not exist. I'm not sure which one would be more beneficial. Because I'm not sure how Ko-fi works, and I know people have their gripes about Etsy, which is fair, but also Etsy just does all of the stuff for me, and I'm no real business owner. Like, in all honesty, it's not my kind of thing, but I also want to make sure everything is being done correctly and not stress about it, and like, to me, Etsy does that, where it kind of takes care of a lot of stuff, that maybe I forget about or don't think about. So that's why I don't have a store on its own storefront, but maybe one day I'll leave Etsy to do that, but that will be the day that I actually make stuff that can be kept in stock or make enough where I can have the store open and close. Or like figure that out. But today's not that day. So anyways, I'm working on this blanket. It is a honeycomb blanket. As you can see, it pretty much makes honeycombs. And I'm somewhat worried that maybe I don't have enough yarn, but I do still have a lot of unraveled yarn in here, first of all. I think there's a skein, or like a caked up skein in here. There is. And then I think I have like 2 more skeins of this color. So we will see if the yarn will be enough. I am hoping. And if not, I'll have to see if Knit Picks has any more. But if not, I'm not sure, because I think any yarn I get from like Michael's or Joann's would end up being too small, because this is technically bulky yarn. I'm not 100% sure how true to bulky this is. But that would be the problem, is if I can't find this color or something similar to it, it might end up being a problem. But again, this is how much I've done so far, so we'll see if it turns out to being more of the size of the blanket that I want it to be. And if not, well, that will be a problem for a future Mystic. I think that's it. I think that's all I have for you. Yeah, I went to a craft warehouse sale. It was pretty okay. It was pretty interesting. There were some people who were like really excited to be there, and I am glad that they were excited about it. I might be tempted to do some weaving. I am very tempted to do weaving, but again, don't have the space, and honestly don't have the money to buy a weaving thing right now. I showed you what I was working on a blanket and a sweater, and one way or another, those will get done eventually. I don't know when, I don't know how, but they will. And yeah, maybe next time I do an episode, maybe I'll have some polymer clay stuff that I've been working on. Maybe I won't. I will have chickens. That's for sure. I'll have chickens. I want to have a cow army, because there is another game called Puff Pals, and they have cow variations of plushies. Like, there's a strawberry cow, I think it's a chocolate cow, there's a tea cow. Like, I want a cow army now. But that'll be another thing, is getting those cow plushies one day. But yeah, I think that's it. I'm not sure what next month's episode will be, and I don't have any yarn orders planned either, and none of the yarn dyers that I follow are having any really big drops, as far as I'm aware, that I'd be like really interested in. So yeah, if there is anything that y'all want to know more about, if you want to know more about me, know more about stuff that I'm working on or plan to, or anything like that, please let me know in the comments. If there's anything that like you'd like to see like a video of, I'd be more than happy to try and make it as well, like maybe a process video. I'm not sure what y'all would like to see, but just let me know in the comments. Also, if there's anything that you're working on and you're excited about for to make in 2023, also share that in the comments as well. I would love to know what everyone's working on. I love seeing everyone's like Instagram stories I follow, and like what they're making and stuff, because sometimes I get ideas too where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I would love that. That looks so cool. I want to try that out, or try and make that and see if it's possible. Like, that's what happened with the Ali's sweater, in all honesty. I saw so many people posting about it. I saw the pattern creator posting so much about it. I was just like, I need to make this sweater. This looks so cool. I want to make it. And so hence I am making it now. So I would love to know your thoughts on what you would like to see, or just hear about what you're making. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!